Welcome back to Bless Your LiL Narc Heart. This is a segment I want to talk about the emotional and mental emotions that you feel after or during and after you deal with being a covert narcissist and the healing you can go through and steps to make to get better. I want to call this episode The Invisible Bruises. All I know is we're here to uncover the hidden realities of narcissistic abuse and reclaim our voices to find our way back to ourselves. I'm your host, Sarah Angel, and today's episode is one that's deeply personal. We're talking about the emotional and psychological damage that happens when you're involved with a covert narcissist. Not a loud narcissist, not an obvious narcissist, not the one who walks in the room demanding attention. We're talking about the quiet one, the victim, the martyr, the misunderstood soul that somehow always ends up being the innocent one in every story, the covert. The kind of person who can leave you questioning your reality, your sanity, your worth, and sometimes even your identity. If you've ever found yourself wondering why you changed so much in a relationship, why you became anxious, why you became insecure, why you became exhausted, why you no longer recognize yourself, this episode's for you. So let's get into it. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. One of the hardest things about surviving a covert narcissist is the damage that really happens all at once. It's not usually one giant explosion. It's not even one dramatic event. It's thousands of tiny wounds. Tiny criticisms, tiny lies, tiny betrayals, tiny manipulations, tiny moments where your feelings don't matter, tiny moments where your reality is always questioned, tiny moments where your needs become inconvenient. And because each individual cut seems small, you keep telling yourself you're overreacting. You keep making excuses, you keep giving second chances, you keep waiting for the person you fell in love with to come back. But while you're waiting, you're slowly disappearing. Why the beginning feels so magic is because the reason covert narcissistic abuse is so confusing is because the beginning often feels incredible. You feel understood, chosen, special, important. You tell yourself that you've finally found someone who gets you. They mirror your dreams, your values, your interests, your struggles. It's like meeting someone who speaks your soul's language. But what many survivors eventually realize is that they weren't being seen. They were being studied. The narcissist learns what matters to you, then becomes whatever version of themselves is most likely to gain your trust. The connection feels real because your feelings were real, your love was real, your investment was real, but the foundation was built on illusion. Then the self-doubt begins. It starts changing. You notice little things. Something feels off. Maybe they become distant. Maybe they start withholding affection. Maybe they become passive-aggressive. Maybe they twist conversations. Maybe they deny things that they clearly said. Maybe they suddenly become victims whenever you express concern. And every time you try to discuss it, somehow the conversation turns into your fault. You become too sensitive, too emotional, too needy, too dramatic, too demanding, too insecure. Eventually you stop trusting your own instincts and you start thinking, maybe I am the problem. Maybe I'm imagining things. Maybe I expect too much. That's where the psychological damage truly begins. Because you're living in constant confusion. One of the most painful parts of a covert narcissistic abuse is confusion. You don't know which version of them you're really going to get. The loving version, the cold version, the supportive version, the cruel version, the victim version, the angry version, the disappearing version, the affectionate version. Your nervous system becomes trapped in a cycle of unpredictability, and you start constantly scanning for danger, watching their mood, watching their tone, watching their reactions, watching every word you say. Without realizing it, you become emotionally hypervigilant, and your brain is working overtime, and eventually you become exhausted. Then you start losing yourself. This is the part that breaks my heart the most, is because survivors often don't realize this is happening when it's happening. Little by little, you start shrinking. You stop speaking up. You stop expressing needs, you stop disagreeing, you stop setting boundaries, you stop asking for more, and you become focused on keeping the peace, avoiding conflict, managing their emotions, preventing the next argument, protecting yourself from the next emotional withdrawal, and one day you wake up and you realize something terrifying, that you don't know who you are anymore. You become so focused on surviving the relationship that you stop living your own life. And that damage doesn't end when the relationship ends either. Nobody talks about this enough. The abuse doesn't magically stop affecting you the day that the relationship ends, my bad. Many survivors leave physically before they leave emotionally. Even after the relationship ends over, the damage lingers. You second guess yourself. You struggle making decisions. You wonder if people are lying. You become fearful of trusting others. You question your worth. You play conversations in your head. You search for answers. You search for closure, for explanations, sometimes for months, sometimes for years, because your brain is trying to solve a puzzle that was intentionally designed to keep you confused. But this is how the healing begins. So let's talk about that. Not surviving, healing. Because there's a difference. The first step is accepting reality. Not fantasy, not the potential, not who they could become, not who they were in the beginning, who they consistently showed themselves to be. Healing starts when you stop falling in love with possibility and start looking at patterns. Stop seeking validation from them. This step is the hardest, incredibly hard. You have to stop looking for the person who hurt you to validate your pain. Many survivors spend years waiting for an apology, waiting for accountability, waiting for honesty, waiting for closure, waiting for them to finally admit what they did. The truth is, many never will, and your healing cannot depend on someone's self-awareness. Your healing begins when you decide your experience was real, even if they never admit it. This is when you have to rebuild your identity. Ask yourself, what did I love before this relationship? What dreams did I put on hold? What hobbies did I stop doing? Who was I before I became consumed by surviving this person? Start rebuilding that version of yourself, one small piece at a time. Read books, take the drive, start the project, write the journal, join the class, create the art, reconnect with yourself, because healing isn't just leaving them, it's finding you again. And you have to establish boundaries. Boundaries aren't a punishment, remember that. They're protection. Boundaries are the locks on the doors for your peace. Stop explaining them, stop defending them, stop negotiating them. A healthy person respects boundaries. A toxic person views boundaries as an obstacle. Pay attention to who gets angry when you stop allowing access to your energy. And distance yourself. If possible, create distance, because physical distance, emotional distance, digital distance. Stop checking their social media. Stop monitoring their life. Stop looking for signs that they miss you. Stop searching for proof that they regret losing you. Every time you do that, you're reopening a wound that's trying to heal. And the goal isn't to win. The goal isn't revenge. The goal is freedom. You need to give yourself grace. Some days you'll feel strong. Some days you'll miss them. Some days you'll feel angry, and some days you'll feel sad. Some days you'll wonder if it was really that bad. That's normal. Healing is not a straight line. It's more like a winding country road. There are curves, detours, and potholes, but if you keep moving forward, eventually you'll look behind you and realize you've traveled further than you thought possible. If nobody has told you this lately, hear me when I say it. The fact that you survived does not make what happened okay. And the fact that you're strong does not mean it didn't hurt. And the fact that you're healing does not erase what you endured. But it does mean they didn't destroy you. You're still here. You're still standing. You're still capable of love, joy, peace, happiness. And most importantly, you're still you. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode spoke to your heart, share it with someone who may need to hear it. And remember, the strongest thing you can do after a narcissistic abuse isn't proving your worth to them. It's remembering your worth without them. Till next time, this is Bless Your LiL Narc Heart. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.